Sometimes a man disappears not out of anger, but because someone else's trauma is stronger than his love. Ethan would only understand that truth much later, long after the night everything broke. But on the evening of the wedding, he still believed he understood his wife completely. He believed her laughter came from joy, her silence meant comfort, and her touch was something sacred and unshakable. That illusion cracked the moment she leaned in under the glow of fairy lights and whispered a sentence that felt like a knife slipping between his ribs. "Don't touch me, not in front of my ex." The music was loud, a swelling romantic chorus meant to pull couples onto the dance floor, but the words seemed to cut through the noise with surgical precision. His hand, inches away from resting at the small of her back, froze mid-air. She didn't look at him when she said it. Her eyes were locked somewhere over his shoulder. No, not somewhere. At someone. Adrian. Ethan turned just enough to see him. Tall, composed, wearing a dark suit that fit a little too perfectly, like it was tailored for moments of intimidation. Adrian wasn't smiling, not really. His mouth moved in the shape of a smile, but his eyes were flat, studying, calculating, almost amused. As if he recognized something in Ethan that Ethan didn't yet know was there. Maya stepped slightly away, barely an inch, but enough that Ethan felt the air thicken between them. A soft tremble had appeared in her fingers, one she tried to hide by clasping her hands behind her, but Ethan noticed. He always noticed her small tells, how she bit her tongue when nervous, how she tugged her sleeves when lying, how she avoided silence when afraid. But this wasn't any of those. This was something new. For a moment he tried to write it off as coincidence. Maybe she didn't want a public display of affection at someone else's wedding. Maybe she didn't want to make Adrian uncomfortable. Maybe she didn't want drama. Except Maya wasn't the type to shrink. She was bold, bright, the kind of woman who danced barefoot in airports and talked strangers into spontaneous karaoke. But tonight she looked like a child caught stealing something fragile and precious. "Is everything okay?" Ethan whispered. She didn't answer. She only swallowed hard and tried to smile. It came out wrong, too tight, like her skin didn't fit. Adrian started walking toward them. And Ethan, for the briefest second, felt an instinct he had never felt before regarding his wife. The strange, unwelcome sensation that she wasn't afraid of Adrian seeing them touch, but afraid of Ethan knowing why he couldn't. Adrian reached them with his hand extended. Ethan took it reflexively, ignoring the sharp pressure Adrian applied as he said, "You must be the husband who finally got what I lost." A normal man would say it as a compliment. A bitter man as an insult. But Adrian delivered it with a forced warmth that felt rehearsed. Performed. Maya's throat tightened. Ethan saw it, saw her exhale shakily, saw her eyes avoiding both of them. And then Adrian's gaze flicked to her with a silent message. A message she clearly understood. A message that drained the remaining color from her face. Ethan felt the fear flicker across her expression like a shadow. He didn't know it yet, but that moment, barely 3 seconds, barely a whisper, contained the entire truth of their marriage. And the beginning of its end. Ryan's smile lingered in the air long after he stepped back, the kind of smile that pretended to be polite but carried a warning under its breath. Ethan watched him walk away, cutting through the crowd with the confidence of a man who believed every room still belonged to him. The wedding lights glowed gold against the glass walls, couples swayed to the soft music, laughter floated around them, yet everything near Ethan and Maya felt strangely cold. Maya wrapped her arms around herself as if she could shrink into the fabric of her dress. It was subtle, but he saw it. The way she took one step closer to where Adrian stood speaking with another guest, not closer in affection but in a strange, instinctive alignment. As if her body was wired to track him, like prey that had learned to survive by anticipating the predator's next move. Ethan tried again. "Maya," he said softly, "did something happen between?" She shook her head too quickly. "Please don't. Not here." Her voice cracked on the last word. Before he could press further, Adrian turned back toward them, and this time Maya visibly braced. Her shoulders tensed, her posture straightened, her breathing grew shallow. She looked like someone preparing to be evaluated, not approached. Adrian walked up with 2 champagne flutes. "For old friends," he said, handing one to her. Maya didn't reach for it. He kept holding it out. "Come on. It's a celebration." Her fingers trembled before she touched the glass. She kept her grip close to the base so her hand wouldn't brush his. But the moment she made contact, Adrian's expression shifted into satisfaction, as if her compliance mattered more than the drink itself. Ethan noticed the flicker of triumph. He also noticed something else. Adrian's eyes weren't focused on Maya's face. They were on her left hand. Her wedding ring. Adrian's smile thinned. "You've changed your style," he said to her. I remember when you hated gold. Ethan's stomach nodded. He had picked that ring. Maya had told him she loved it. But the way she swallowed now, quietly, stiffly, made Ethan question everything. People change, she murmured. Life changes. Some parts of you don't, Adrian replied with a quiet certainty that sent a chill down Ethan's arms. Ethan stepped forward slightly, placing himself between them, but before his hand could reach Maya's arm, a gesture he'd done 1,000 times, she flinched back again. Not dramatically, not enough to draw attention, but enough for Adrian to notice. Adrian's smirk was instant. Sure. Cruel. Ethan's heart thudded painfully. What did he just see? Ethan asked himself. What did he just confirm? Before he could speak, before he could demand answers, Adrian leaned in, too close to Maya, just enough for Ethan to read the shape of his lips without hearing the words. Maya's jaw tightened. Her chest rose sharply. Her grip on the champagne glass whitened her knuckles. Adrian straightened and walked away without a word. Ethan stared at Maya. What did he say? She forced air into her lungs. Nothing. It doesn't matter. But Ethan saw the truth, she was shaking. And even worse, she wasn't trembling from Adrian's proximity. She was trembling at the thought of Ethan knowing what Adrian had whispered. Ethan didn't sleep that night, not really. Not after watching his wife shrink into herself each time Adrian drifted near, not after seeing fear flash in her eyes at the smallest gesture of touch. The flinch haunted him. The whisper haunted him even more. He replayed it in his mind over and over, the slight curve of Adrian's lips, the way Maya stiffened like her bones had turned to glass. But the worst part wasn't what Adrian said. It was how Maya reacted. Not like a woman hiding a forbidden memory, but like a woman terrified of a truth resurfacing. The next morning, the wedding festivities continued with a brunch. Ethan hoped things would make sense with daylight. They didn't. If anything, the signs became clearer, sharper, each one cutting deeper than the last. It started when Ethan reached for Maya's hand as they walked into the garden area. A simple gesture they'd done 1,000 times. But as his fingers brushed hers, she jerked away, subtle but unmistakable, pretending to adjust her purse strap. Ethan stopped walking. Maya, he said quietly, you don't want me to touch you. She didn't face him. Don't be dramatic. He swallowed. Then look at me and tell me you're okay. She didn't. Before he could push further, a shadow passed across the grass, Adrian. He stood near a group of guests, laughing too loudly at something someone said, but his eyes, cold and predatory, kept glancing toward them. Maya noticed. Ethan watched her shoulders tense, her breathing hitch. She unconsciously moved a fraction closer to Ethan, but not out of affection. It was defense. A protective instinct. Or guilt. Or fear. Ethan didn't know which one hurt more. Trying to anchor himself, he placed a gentle hand on her back. The reaction was instant. Maya flinched, inhaling sharply, stepping away as though his touch burned. This time, Adrian wasn't even watching. Ethan's chest tightened. Confusion, hurt, suspicion, everything collided at once. Tell me what's going on, he whispered. Please, she said softly, eyes glassy. Please don't ask me anything today. It was the same phrase she'd used the night before. Rehearsed. Automatic. Like a reflex she had built out of survival, not secrecy. Ethan's pulse hammered. Something happened between you two, he said quietly. Something you didn't tell me. Maya closed her eyes. And for one dangerous moment Ethan saw her mask slip, saw guilt, sorrow, something like shame swirling behind her eyelids. But before she could answer, her phone buzzed. She went pale. Ethan leaned slightly to see the screen, but she angled it away instantly, too fast, too desperate. As if the name on the phone would shatter whatever lies still held their marriage together. Maya, Ethan whispered, who is that? She didn't answer. Only pressed the phone to her chest like a shield. Her lower lip trembled as she turned away, pretending to look for someone in the crowd. Ethan wasn't a paranoid man. Wasn't jealous. Wasn't insecure. He had trusted her with every piece of his heart. But now something dark and cold slid under his ribs, a sensation he'd never felt before. The fear that Maya wasn't protecting herself from Adrian. She was protecting Ethan from something he wasn't supposed to know. And somewhere inside, a tiny voice whispered the question he tried to push away. Had his wife ever truly left her past behind? The wedding venue's women's restroom sat tucked behind a long mirrored hallway lined with flowers and soft lantern lights. Ethan hadn't meant to follow Maya there. He only wanted space, a moment to breathe, to stop the spiraling thoughts clawing up his throat. But as he stood outside the hallway trying to ground himself, fate handed him something he never should have heard. Two bridesmaids slipped into the hall, whispering in hushed, scandal-soaked tones. "I still can't believe she showed up with him," the first one said. The second scoffed. "Maya? Please. She always makes reckless choices when it comes to Adrian." Ethan's stomach clenched. The first whispered lower, "No, I meant Ethan. Adrian's going to lose it if he finds out, again." Again. That one word detonated inside him. The bridesmaids disappeared into the restroom, leaving the sentence hanging in the air like smoke. Ethan pressed his palm against the cool wall and tried to breathe through the sudden dizziness. Again. What did Adrian lose before? What did he find out before? What had Maya done? Ethan didn't want to suspect her. Didn't want to picture the worst. But the puzzle pieces were falling whether he wanted them to or not. Her fear. Her flinches. Her secretive phone. Her trembling at Adrian's sight. Her refusal to let Ethan touch her. If it were simple trauma, she would cling to Ethan, not pull away. If it were lingering feelings, she would look guilty, not terrified. If it were nothing, she wouldn't be shaking every time Adrian came near. There was more. Far more. And for the first time, Ethan didn't know whether the truth would destroy him, or her. Before he could gather his thoughts, the restroom door swung open, not the bridesmaids but Maya. Her eyes were red. Mascara streaks smudged her cheeks. She tried to wipe them away, but her eyeliner stained the corner of her fingers. Her breathing was uneven, the way it got when she'd cried too fast, too hard, too quietly. She froze when she saw him. Her lips parted, barely forming a whisper. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "I should be asking you that," he said softly. "I heard." "Don't." She shook her head, barely composed. "Please don't say anything. Please just walk with me." He stepped closer. She stepped back. "Why do you keep doing that?" His voice cracked. "Why won't you let me touch you?" "It's not you," she whispered. "It's not about you." "Then what is it?" Her throat worked as she swallowed. Her voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "Ethan, please. I swear I'll explain everything, but not here. Not now. Please just pretend everything is okay." "Why?" His voice was hollow. "Because if you push me right now," she whispered, "you won't be able to unhear the answer." A chill crept down Ethan's spine. Before he could respond, Maya's phone buzzed again. She didn't check the screen this time. She didn't need to. Her entire body reacted before her eyes even moved. A flinch. A tremor. A cold, hollow stare. The reaction wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Ethan watched her slowly lift the phone, glance at the message, and close her eyes like she was bracing for an impact. He took a step closer, searching her expression for anything. Love, fear, truth. But all he saw was resignation. "Maya," he whispered, "tell me who keeps messaging you." She opened her eyes, glassy, defeated, wounded, and whispered one word that changed everything Ethan thought he understood. "Adrian." Maya didn't say anything else after that. Not a word. Not an explanation. Not even an apology. She just stood there, holding her phone like it was something radioactive, dangerous if dropped, deadly if opened. Ethan watched her thumb hover over the screen before she turned it face down and tucked it into her clutch with trembling fingers. He tried to speak, but before he could, an announcement echoed through the garden speakers. Group photos on the main lawn. Maya exhaled shakily. "We have to go." "We don't have to do anything," Ethan said quietly but firmly. "We can leave. Right now." Her eyes widened in panic. "No. We can't leave. Not before the photos." "Why?" Ethan pressed. She opened her mouth, and then shut it again. As if there were a truth lodged in her throat she wasn't allowed to release. As if someone had placed invisible chains on her choices. She walked ahead of him toward the lawn, her posture stiff as glass. Ethan followed, every step heavy with dread he didn't know how to name. The photographer was cheerful and oblivious, calling out names, arranging people in clusters. When he saw Maya, he lit up. Perfect timing. "Maya, stand here. Adrian, you too. Let's recreate the old college friend shot." Ethan felt his stomach drop. "No," Maya said instantly. Her voice cracked. "Oh, come on," the photographer laughed, not sensing the tension. "Just one picture for nostalgia." Adrian stepped into the frame before Maya could escape, his hand casually sliding toward her waist with a familiarity that made Ethan's skin crawl. "Maya," Ethan said firmly, stepping forward. But her eyes weren't on Ethan. They were locked on Adrian's hand, watching it approach inch by inch. Every muscle in her body tightened. For a split second, Ethan expected her to step away, slap his hand, say something, anything. But she didn't move. Her eyes flickered sideways. Toward Ethan. Toward Adrian. Toward the photographer. Then back to Adrian. In that split-second decision, Ethan saw something horrifying. Maya wasn't choosing nostalgia. She wasn't choosing politeness. She wasn't choosing Adrian. She was choosing survival. Adrian's hand landed lightly, but deliberately, on her hip. And she let it. The small contact was enough to send Ethan's vision blurring with confusion and devastation. She wouldn't let him touch her, even accidentally. Yet Adrian could handle her like his right had never expired. The shutter clicked. Ethan couldn't breathe. Adrian smirked at him through the camera's flash, a silent message etched into every flick of his expression. You see? Some things don't change. When the photographer moved on, Maya tried to step away quickly. Adrian leaned in one last time, lips brushing too close to her ear. Ethan couldn't hear the words, but he saw the whisper ripple through her body like electricity. Her shoulders tensing, her breath hitching, her fingers curling. Whatever Adrian said, it wasn't harmless. Ethan stepped forward to intervene, but Adrian walked past him, pausing just long enough to murmur under his breath. Still running, Ethan? The phrase was quiet. Too quiet. Like a test. Like Adrian knew something Ethan didn't. Ethan's chest tightened. What did you say? Adrian only smirked, patting him on the shoulder as if they were old friends. You'll figure it out. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Maya reached Ethan seconds later, her voice breaking. Please don't make a scene. Tell me what he whispered, Ethan demanded. She shook her head. You don't want to know. Anything would hurt less than this. Her eyes filled with tears. You're wrong. Before Ethan could say another word, the photographer called Maya's name again for another picture. She looked at Ethan one last time, full of apology, fear, and something else he couldn't decipher, before quietly stepping away. He watched her walking toward the camera, shrinking into herself more with every step, and he realized something that twisted like a blade inside him. Maya wasn't afraid of Adrian touching her. She was afraid of Ethan knowing why she couldn't stop him. The sun dipped lower behind the reception hall, casting long shadows across the stone balcony where guests wandered out for fresh air. Ethan found himself drifting there too, not because he wanted a break from the noise, but because he needed distance from the storm inside him. The images kept replaying in his mind in looping, torturous detail. Adrian's hand on Maya's waist, her paralyzed stillness, the photographer's oblivious cheer, that smug whisper. None of it made sense. None of it felt survivable. None of it aligned with the woman he married. Ethan gripped the railing, forcing slow breaths. But the moment he finally began to steady himself, soft footsteps echoed behind him. He turned and saw Maya. Alone. She looked exhausted, like she'd lived a year inside a single afternoon. But Ethan's eyes went immediately to her back. Her dress dipped low, exposing her shoulder blades and the smooth curve of her spine. He'd always loved that dress on her. The first time she tried it on, she'd spun in front of him and asked, "Is it too much?" He had whispered, "It's perfect." But right now, as she took a hesitant step toward him, he saw something he'd never seen before. Bruises. Faint, almost healed, like ghosts of violence she'd tried to forget, but unmistakable. The outlines were subtle, but shaped with a terrifying clarity. The broad imprint of fingertips pressing too hard, gripping too tightly. A handprint. Ethan's breath caught. "Maya," he said, his voice hollow and shaking, "turn around." She froze. Her shoulders curled inward instinctively, like she'd been caught exposed. Slowly, painfully, she turned so her back faced him fully. Under the fading amber light, the bruises were even clearer. "Who did that to you?" Ethan whispered. Maya's hands instantly moved to cover her back, pulling the fabric higher. "No one. It's nothing. Please don't make this something it isn't." Ethan stepped forward, but cautiously, because he was terrified she'd flinch again. "Bruises don't appear out of nowhere. They're old," she insisted. "From months ago." His pulse thundered. Months ago, with Adrian? Her silence was louder than any confession. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. "He hurt you." "No." Maya snapped, too fast, too desperate. Then her voice crumbled. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it?" "Because right now nothing adds up. You won't let me touch you. You let him hold you like he still owns you. He whispers something and you nearly collapse. You're checking your phone like it's a bomb. And now this." Tears filled her eyes. "Ethan, I'm trying to keep you safe." He stared at her, stunned. "Safe? From who?" Her lips trembled. Her voice broke into a whisper. "From him." Ethan's blood ran cold. Maya held her arms around herself like armor. You don't understand Adrian. You never did. You don't know what he's capable of. Then tell me, Ethan demanded. Make me understand. She shook her head violently, like the truth was a trap. I can't. Not here. Not while he's watching. Ethan scanned the crowd inside through the balcony doors, people laughing, clinking glasses, snapping photos. No sign of Adrian. He's not here. She grabbed Ethan's wrist with trembling fingers, and for the first time that night she touched him willingly. Her eyes were wide with terror. You don't get it. He doesn't have to be here. He never needs to be close. Adrian always knows. He always finds a way. Ethan felt his heart drop into a pit he didn't know existed. Was it him who left those bruises? Maya looked toward the ground, tears dripping onto the stone. Her silence was the answer. Why didn't you tell me? Ethan's voice broke. Because you'd want to protect me, she whispered. And he said if you ever tried, he'd destroy you. A gust of wind swept across the balcony, as if the night itself shivered at her words. Ethan reached out to hold her, and she instinctively stepped back. The rejection sliced him open. Maya, he whispered, agony tightening every muscle in his chest. Why can't you let me touch you? She closed her eyes. Because Adrian told me that if another man touches me in front of him, even once, he'll make that man disappear. Her voice trembled. And I'm terrified he meant you. Rain hammered the rooftop like impatient fingers as Marcus sat in his parked car outside the house he used to call home. The windows glowed softly from inside, the same warm yellow he once associated with peace, with belonging, with her. Now that light felt like it came from another life. He wasn't here to enter. He didn't want her seeing him. He just needed to confirm something he couldn't shake since the restaurant confrontation. The way Laura's ex, Adrian, had looked at him, not with gloating, not with victory, but with confusion. Genuine confusion. Why would a man look confused? Marcus whispered to himself. Unless he doesn't know he's the reason my wife asked me not to touch her? That single question had been eating him alive. He replayed the scene. Laura flinching when he touched her shoulder that night Adrian walked in, her voice trembling when she told him, "You're not allowed to touch me in front of him." The panic in her eyes had always felt misaligned with the moment. Now he was ready to confront reality, even if it shredded him. A shadow moved across the living room window. Laura. She was pacing again. He could tell, she always paced with one arm crossed over her stomach and the other rubbing her temple. That was her hiding something posture, one he'd learned years ago when she panicked after losing her job. He knew her too well. Maybe too well. He watched her until she finally collapsed onto the couch, head in hands. His chest tightened. He didn't want to be the villain. He didn't want to assume betrayal. So he forced himself to explore the possibility he'd avoided. What if she wasn't ashamed of him? What if she was afraid of something? Of someone? Of a truth she couldn't control? He wouldn't have come tonight if not for what her sister Mia whispered to him earlier that day when she spotted him grabbing coffee on Main Street. Marcus, she said, glancing around before lowering her voice. I don't know what's happening between you two, but whatever Laura said about her ex, I don't think Adrian is the one you should be worried about. He'd stared at her, pulse rising. Mia, what does that mean? But she'd only murmured, just, don't believe everything she said. And please don't hate her before you know why. Then she had walked away, leaving him trapped in a prison of new questions. Inside the house, Laura suddenly stood and rushed toward the hallway where the old safe was. Marcus leaned forward instinctively. Why the safe? What would she hide now? Then he saw her return with a small envelope. She sat at the coffee table, opened it with trembling hands and pulled out a Polaroid picture. Even from afar, Marcus recognized her expression, nostalgia mixed with dread. She held the photo to her heart, shaking, then broke down completely. And that's when Marcus realized. She wasn't reminiscing. She was mourning. He'd never seen her look at anything the way she was looking at that photo. Like it contained the secret she'd been choking on for years. Marcus gripped the steering wheel. Tonight he would find out the truth. But he wouldn't confront her yet. Not until he saw what was in that envelope. Marcus waited until Laura turned off the living room lights before approaching the house. The night soaked him in silence as he moved toward the side window, the one with the broken latch he'd fixed himself 3 years ago. He didn't want to break in. He wasn't a thief. But answers required witnessing, not guessing. Inside, the coffee table still held the envelope. Laura had gone upstairs. Marcus forced a breath, lifted the window the way only someone who knew its stubborn frame could, and eased inside. He approached the envelope like it might burn him. The Polaroid lay face down. He flipped it over. The picture nearly buckled his knees. It was Laura, his Laura, standing in front of a packed auditorium, wearing a sleek black blazer, hair professionally pinned, a microphone in her hand and a banner behind her. Dr. L. Avery, featured speaker, Trauma Recovery Institute. Not Laura Bennett. Not his wife's name. Marcus whispered the name again. Avery? Another photo beneath it showed her at a conference table, surrounded by officials. Another showed her cutting a ribbon at what looked like a women's shelter. Another, her face on a brochure. Another, her shaking hands with someone who looked like a state senator. His pulse roared in his ears. His wife had a public professional identity. A second life. A life she never told him about. But why? He dug deeper into the envelope and found documents. Credentials. Lecture notes. A letter of invitation from a national psychological board, dated 11 months into their marriage. 11 months. When she had told him she was struggling with depression and burned out. When she said she needed a simple life for a while. When she said she wanted to work at the bakery part-time, to breathe. He remembered that year vividly. She'd cried in his arms after quitting her job, saying she needed space from the world. But now he understood she hadn't quit. She had vanished from that world. Changed her last name. Changed her professional identity. Disappeared. Not from him, but from them. And tonight, seeing Adrian, her panic suddenly made chilling sense. Because Adrian had been at a community mental health gala 3 years ago. She had told Marcus it was just a friend's wedding. But in the Polaroids he spotted Adrian in the audience during one conference. Adrian knew her other life. Marcus sank onto the couch, the truth tightening around him like vines. She wasn't ashamed of Marcus at the restaurant. She was terrified her double life would be exposed in front of him. Footsteps creaked from upstairs. He shoved everything back into the envelope and slipped out through the window seconds before she reached the living room. Laura stood alone in the dark, breathing unevenly, pressing the envelope to her chest like a wound. She whispered into the darkness. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I just couldn't lose you too." Marcus froze outside. Lose me too? The word hit him like a tremor. What had she lost before him? And what was she still hiding? Marcus didn't go home. He drove aimlessly until the sun began to rise in faint streaks of gray. He parked outside an abandoned gas station at the edge of town, gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. Every breath felt like dragging air through broken glass. Laura had lived a second life. A public one. A powerful one. A life she'd buried the day she married him. He replayed every moment from the past 3 years. Every time she dodged questions about her past friends, every time she changed the TV channel whenever news conferences played, every time she avoided professional gatherings he invited her to. He had thought she was just shy. He had thought she was healing. He had thought he was helping her. But he wasn't helping her. She was hiding from something he didn't even know existed. The envelope still burned in his pocket. He hadn't taken it, just one Polaroid, the first one. It felt wrong to leave it behind. It felt even worse to keep it. His mind cycled through possibilities until one name rose like smoke. Adrian. The ex she didn't want him touching her in front of. But now, knowing her secret identity, Marcus saw a terrifying new angle. What if Adrian didn't just know her before? What if he was part of the life she abandoned? Or worse, what if he was the reason she abandoned it? A sudden vibration jolted him. His phone buzzed with a text from Laura's sister, Mia. "Mia, we need to talk. Now, alone. You're not safe if you keep digging without knowing the whole truth." Marcus stared at the message. Not safe? His heart sank. What had Laura been running from? He replied immediately, and within 15 minutes he was pulling into the parking lot behind the community center. Mia's workplace. She was waiting near the back door, eyes red, fingers twisting nervously. As soon as he stepped out, she grabbed his arm. "Marcus, listen to me carefully. You think Laura lied to you. And yes, she hid something huge. But you need to understand something before you jump to conclusions. She didn't leave her old life because of fame, or because of pressure. She swallowed hard. She left because she survived something that almost killed her. And she would rather lose every person she loves than relive it." Marcus felt the world tilt. What happened? But Mia shook her head. "It's not my place to tell you everything. But I can tell you this much because you being in the dark is dangerous now." He felt his stomach drop. "Mia, dangerous how?" She hesitated, then pulled out her phone and swiped through photos. Finally she stopped on one, a candid picture of Laura at a conference table, speaking passionately. The same environment as the Polaroid. But the person sitting beside her, Marcus recognized him instantly. Adrian. Mia exhaled shakily. Adrian wasn't her ex-boyfriend. She looked Marcus dead in the eyes. He was her colleague, her partner on a trauma research project, and the man whose mistake almost destroyed her career and her life. Marcus's pulse hammered. A colleague? Not an ex. Then why the lie? Mia continued. She didn't run from him because of heartbreak. She ran because he crossed a line that could have ruined her forever. She lowered her voice to a whisper. And if Adrian recognizes her now, if he realizes she's still alive in that world, then everyone who tried to protect her back then, including you, is suddenly exposed. Marcus felt the ground slip beneath him. What did he do to her? Mia looked away, eyes wet. That part, she has to tell you herself. Marcus drove back toward town with Mia's words pulsing in his skull like a second heartbeat. Adrian wasn't her ex. He was her colleague. A man whose mistake nearly destroyed her life. Destroyed how? Professionally? Personally? Physically? The possibilities clawed at him until he could hardly breathe. He parked on a quiet street 3 blocks from the house, not because he was afraid of being seen, but because he wasn't sure what he would do once he saw her. Anger, betrayal, heartbreak, they all twisted together, but something new had joined them. Fear. For her. For himself. For whatever storm was now circling them. He approached the house slowly. Through the window he saw Laura standing alone in the kitchen, clutching a cup with both hands. She wasn't drinking, just holding. Like it grounded her. When he stepped inside, the door clicked louder than usual. She jumped, spinning with wide, exhausted eyes. Marcus, she breathed, voice cracking. Where were you? I woke up and you were gone. He didn't answer. He looked at her the way a man looks at a stranger wearing his wife's face. Why did you lie to me? He finally said. Her fingers tightened around the cup. About what? About Adrian, he said. About your life before me. About everything. Color drained from her face. She whispered, Marcus, please, don't do this. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the Polaroid, the one he'd taken from the envelope. He set it on the counter between them. She stared at it like it was a loaded weapon pointed at her chest. Silence thickened until the only sound in the room was her shaky breath. You went through my things, she whispered. You kept an entire identity from me. Her knees buckled. She caught herself against the counter. I wasn't trying to deceive you. He laughed, not cruelly but broken. Then what would you call it? Laura pressed a trembling hand to her forehead, shoulders shaking. I wanted to tell you. I tried. So many nights. But every time I opened my mouth, my past felt like a blade against your throat. Marcus froze. What does that mean? She looked up, tears glistening. Adrian isn't who you think he is. That night at the restaurant, when I told you not to touch me, it wasn't because I was ashamed of you. She shook her head violently. It was because if he recognized me, you would have been dragged into something you could never escape. His voice dropped. Escape from what, Laura? She swallowed hard, gripping the counter like the truth itself could knock her over. Before I met you, I wasn't just a speaker. I wasn't just a psychologist. I was part of a federal-backed trauma study. We were investigating systemic abuses inside a private treatment conglomerate. Marcus blinked, unsure he heard right. She continued, voice breaking. Adrian wasn't my boyfriend. He was my partner on the project. And he leaked files. Sensitive files. Lives on the line. People who trusted us. Her voice splintered. I was framed. Blamed. Threatened. And when I tried to testify, someone tried to silence me. Marcus's stomach turned to ice. She lifted her shirt slightly, just enough to reveal a faint scar along her ribs. Thin. Precise. A reminder. I left that world, Marcus, she whispered. I disappeared. I changed my name. And I built a life with you because it was the first time in years I felt safe. She stepped closer, tears falling. But when I saw Adrian that night, I knew, if he recognized me, everything I fought to escape would come crashing back. Marcus stared at her, not angry anymore. Just shattered. Not because of the lie. But because she had been living inside a nightmare alone. He opened his mouth to speak. But a knock at the door froze both of them. 3 slow knocks. Measured. Intentional. Laura's face drained of all color. She whispered, barely audible. Marcus, they found me. The 3 knocks echoed through the house like they were made of iron. Slow. Deliberate. Controlled. Not the frantic knock of a neighbor. Not the casual tap of a delivery driver. No, this was the kind of knock meant to announce one thing. We know you're inside. Laura staggered backward, hand clamped over her mouth. Marcus instinctively reached for her, but she flinched, not away from him but toward the door, like every nerve in her body had been yanked in that direction. "Laura," Marcus whispered, "who is that?" She shook her head frantically. "I don't know. I don't know. But if it's them, Marcus, you can't be here." He stepped in front of her. "I'm not leaving you." Another knock. And then a voice. Soft male, too calm. "Laura Avery. I know you're home." Marcus felt Laura crumble behind him, fingers clutching the back of his shirt so tightly the fabric stretched. He whispered, "Stay behind me." The voice continued, almost polite. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm only here for a conversation." Marcus felt his blood heat. He didn't recognize the voice, but Laura did. She inhaled sharply, the sound sharp as broken glass. He turned. "Who is that?" Her lips trembled. "Dr. Hale." The name hit Marcus with no meaning, but the way she said it made it feel like a threat carved into stone. "Who is Dr. Hale?" She swallowed. "He was the director of the trauma program. He's the one who buried everything after the leak. The one who told me to disappear. He said my testimony could destabilize institutions. And that if I stayed quiet, they'd let me live my life." Marcus felt sick. "And now he's at our door?" Tears streamed down her face. "If he's here, it means Adrian saw me at the restaurant. It means Hale knows I'm back." Another knock. Harder now. Less patient. "Laura," the voice said gently, like someone coaxing a panicked animal. "If you don't open the door, I'll assume you've made unfortunate decisions." Marcus moved toward the door, but Laura grabbed him with surprising strength. "Marcus, stop." He turned. "What choice do we have? He already knows you're here." "No," she whispered. "You don't understand. Hale doesn't come personally unless something is already in motion. If he came alone, he wants to talk. If he came with others." Her eyes flicked to the windows. Marcus's heart dropped. "Are we being watched?" She nodded barely. He felt a cold rage ignite in him, not panic, not fear. Rage. No one threatened his wife. No one. He stormed toward the door. But Laura darted in front of him, pressing both hands against his chest. "No." Her voice was raw, urgent. "You can't confront him. You don't know what he's capable of." Marcus held her face between his hands. "I'm not letting him take you." Her eyes softened, tragic, resigned. "Marcus, listen to me. If we open that door together, you'll be dragged into the very thing I destroyed myself to protect you from." He looked at her, breath shaking. "What do you want me to do?" She placed her forehead against his, tears dripping onto his hands. "You have to disappear," she whispered. "Right now. Through the back. Don't pack anything. Don't turn on your phone. Don't come back tonight." Marcus felt the world collapse. "I'm not leaving you." "You have to," she said, voice splintering. "Because if you stay, they'll never let you go. And I can't lose you. Not after everything I gave up." Her voice cracked completely. "It's my turn to protect you." The knock stopped. Silence. Then the voice, now colder. "Marcus Bennett. I know you're inside as well." Marcus went still. They knew his name. Laura's eyes widened with horror. "Oh God." "Marcus, run." Everything inside him screamed not to leave her. But the look in her eyes, pure terror, pure love, made the choice for him. He kissed her forehead, grabbed her shaking hands and whispered, "I'll come back for you." Then he slipped out the back door into the darkness, just as the front door handle began to turn. Marcus ran. Not because he was afraid, but because Laura had asked him to. Because the quiver in her voice had carried something heavier than fear. Something final. A woman who'd already decided she would break before she let anyone else hurt him. He sprinted through backyards and alleys until he hit the tree line behind Maple Ridge, lungs burning. He ducked behind a fallen log, forcing himself to breathe quietly. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, but the forest stayed still. Silent. Watching. He stayed hidden until he saw headlights sweeping the neighborhood roads, slow and deliberate, too slow for police, too deliberate for anyone looking for an address. Marcus felt the hair on his arms rise. They weren't searching for a house. They were searching for him. He waited 20 minutes, long enough for the cars to circle twice, before making his next move. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He had forgotten to silence it. Laura's name flashed on the screen. For a full second he debated ignoring it. If Hale was watching her, a call could be a trap. But ignoring her felt worse than any risk. He answered, breath shaking. "Laura?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Marcus, don't speak." Just listen. He held his breath. I'm going with them. Marcus felt a cold, sharp panic rip through him. What? She cut him off. They won't stop unless they have control. That's what this visit is. A warning. They want to make sure I stay invisible. And they want you far away so you can't interfere. I'm coming back, Marcus said fiercely. Do not open that door to them. It's already open. He felt the world spin. Laura. They said if I cooperate you stay safe. If I try to run, you disappear permanently. Every muscle in Marcus's body tightened. You think I care what they threaten? He said. You think I'm going to let you walk into that alone? She inhaled shakily. Marcus, you don't understand. Then make me. He could almost hear her tears hitting the floor. I lost someone before you, she whispered. Someone I loved. Someone who tried to protect me when the leak happened. He confronted Hale. And he vanished. His body was never found. Marcus froze. That's what you meant, he breathed. When you said you couldn't lose me too. Her sob confirmed it. And if Hale sees you anywhere near this, she continued softly, if he even suspects you want to fight back, he'll erase you the way he erased him. Marcus pressed his forehead against the rough bark of a tree, eyes burning. Laura, I love you. I'm not leaving you. There was a pause, a painful suspended moment where her breathing steadied, like she was gathering the last courage she had left. I know, she said. And that's why I'm doing this. He felt something inside him break. Laura, please listen to me. You granted my wish once, she whispered, voice shaking. At the restaurant. When I told you not to touch me in front of him. You didn't understand why, but you respected me anyway. He realized too late that her voice had the tone of goodbye. I'm asking you for one last wish, she said. Disappear. Stay hidden. And live. No, he breathed. No, Laura. But her voice softened into something that shattered him completely. I love you, Marcus. I'm giving myself up so you don't have to. The line went quiet. Then, a muffled voice. Miss Avery. It's time. Laura whispered one last sentence so soft it barely reached him through the static. I'm sorry you ever loved me. The call ended. Marcus stood there in the forest, phone pressed to his ear long after the screen went black, long after her voice was gone. His breath fogged in the cold air. His hands shook. He waited. Minutes. Hours. Until the sun began to rise again. He didn't go back to the house. He didn't call Mia. He didn't pack a bag. He did exactly what she asked. He disappeared. Not because he wanted to. Not because he was afraid. But because the only thing more painful than losing her was being the reason she died. And so, honoring the last wish of the woman he loved, Marcus Bennett vanished from her life, forever.